My name is Spencer Stevens and I'm a national finalist in the Environmental Science and Natural Resources Management Proficiency. My SAE consists of working for a diesel exhaust fluid blending company. My responsibilities have expanded since being a part of our family business beginning in 2011. DEF is an aqueous solution of deionized water and urea, which is used in all new diesel engines. In 2017, SS Blue began formulating and producing DEF for area farmers and ranchers and other industrial operations. The goal within the company is to provide a means of cleaning the air we breathe by reducing emissions from agriculture equipment and trucks that are used to produce and haul our commodities. My job is to control and manage the entire start to finish of the blending of DEF. My daily roles differ depending on the amount of blending that occurs, but I am responsible for managing blending process, facility cleanliness, labeling of bottling, assisting with state and federal regulation paperwork, and sending product for analysis. The business has capitalized on their opportunities early on and saw that DEF systems in agriculture equipment along with agriculture transportation was required on all new equipment if it was to be purchased and utilized in our state. In 2011, the EPA mandated that all manufacturers must reduce smoke by 90% and nitrogen oxides by 50%, thus seeing an implementation of DEF in all equipment. There's still much more room for growth within this industry as farmers are not required to have a solely DEF implemented fleet until 2030. I have developed and maintained a strong base of DEF experts throughout the country that have assisted me in developing and understanding techniques within the blending stages. With the expansion of facilities, efficiency increases as more DEF is able to be blended, creating a readily available supply to farmers and transportation companies. Contributing to cleaning our air we breathe is a task that I find very rewarding. Since 2017 to now, I have blended over 1.4 million gallons of DEF, which has prevented the amount of carbon dioxide by 831,000 metric tons, which makes me proud for having a small amount of influence in the air we breathe. Question 1. You work for a company that blends and markets diesel exhaust fluid. You state that you ensure that the urea content of your product is 32.5%. How do you produce consistent batches of DEF? I am able to ensure a consistent percentage of urea in the DEF with the guidance of many companies that help us blend on a daily basis. The product we use is tested many times before we actually receive the product. Although the product quality is consistent, the exact quantity of the bags of urea is not always exactly 1 ton. So I always start by putting half of the recommended water, then add the urea, so that way the urea has some cushion and does not hit the mixing tank. From there, I will add the other half of the water and I will let it mix for 30 minutes, then retest the content. From there, I will use a formula then to tell me how much water to add to get the perfect 32.5%. Typically, I'm 10 to 20 gallons away from the ideal percentage, then I add the recommended gallons and retest before I offload the finished product. Question 2. How does DEF reduce harmful emissions in farm equipment? DEF in farm equipment goes through the same process as automotive and industrial equipment, just consumed at a higher quantity. For example, a regular diesel pickup will use about 1 gallon of DEF for every 125 gallons of diesel fuel, and a typical piece of farm equipment will consume 1 gallon of DEF for every 5 gallons of diesel fuel. How it actually works though is the NOx or nitrous oxide being emitted from the diesel motor enters the SCR system, which is where it is injected with a light mist of NH3 or diesel exhaust fluid, which together form a controlled chemical reaction and leaves the tailpipe as H2O and N2. Otherwise known as water and dinitrogen, which makes up 78% of the Earth's atmosphere and the air we breathe. Question number 3. The urea you use is imported and the water is from the city. How do you ensure consistent supply of quality ingredients for your product? As far as urea goes, I perform a visual inspection to make sure that there are no tears in the containment devices to ensure that the urea has not been contaminated. I also inspect the ISO stamp, which tells me that the batch of urea has been tested and deemed eligible for use as DEF. For the quality of water, a monthly inspection is performed by a professional third party that tests the water for a wide variety of reasons, such as testing sodium, chlorine, copper, iron, and much more. The water is so heavily filtered that for every 1 gallon of city water, 25% of the water is kept for deionized water, and the other 75% is recycled back into the city water system. Our total dissolved solids are at 253 particles per million, and a typical household water is at 2,000 particles per million. Also, a monthly sample of my finished DEF is sent to a third party in New York to retest the water and urea to make sure that they meet the parameters and to ensure that the ISO stamp is valid.